What is good, everybody? Welcome into the Classic Polasek podcast. Yes, you might be saying, Jonathan, I thought that you were no longer doing this. Or, Jonathan, what happened to the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks of my podcast that I really enjoy listening to because you're just incredibly gifted at entertaining? I'm not sure anybody has ever said that about me, but if you have, thank you. I do appreciate you. And yes, your podcast is here. It has been a little while. I do agree. I think all of us can agree life can get busy. And whenever life gets busy, it's one of those things that you just have to try and get done. And I just haven't made time for it, so I apologize. But it is here today. We are here in my basement as per usual. The Texas Old Glory, if you will, behind me. And I'm not sure I ever addressed that, but my friend Brian got me that for my man cave down here. So that is the background for the podcast for the foreseeable future. So I bet you guys are wanting to know exactly how I am doing within the picks that we do each and every single year. It has not been good for me so far. Luckily, we have a couple of outs in the fact that we will have 4 points per division winner that we get correct. So that will let me make up some ground. And then we will also have 20 points to the Super Bowl champion. And I think 3 of us are on the Chiefs. One of us, that one being Trevor, is on the Saints. So really the only way right now to make up any ground is division winners at the end of the year and also the Super Bowl champion. And when you know it, right now, Trevor is 20 games up. Let me see if I can show this to you guys. Okay, good. Yeah, we're in business here. So this was our picks last week. As you can see, it's my best week by far. For those of you who are wondering how you get the extra 2 wins down here with a lock, just how we're doing it this year. If you do a lock and you miss, you lose a game. So you can see the record on locks down here. That's the biggest difference in all of our records is Trevor's 5-2 with those, and he leads by a healthy margin, as you can see. And we will go through and we'll make the picks by the end of the day here for this Sunday. And yes, we did have the Vikings minus 17 on Thursday, so we took the L on that one. Not cool. Whenever they were down inside the 10-yard line with like a minute to play, I was like, we're gonna get a push here, and sure enough, it did not happen. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. So, I'm not sweating any real money on this. It's just a bunch of bragging rights with my friends and a bunch of bragging rights. I won last year, so I'm pretty happy with that. We play for a round of golf. That's all we really play for. And so my next round of golf that we play together as high school buddies will be free, unless I have to pay for somebody else. Obviously, it could be Trevor this year. But that's all we play for now. Trevor wanted it to be a boat this year. I don't think any of us have the money to make that happen. So that's how we lay out right now. Trevor's 67-45-1. Garrett's 48-55-1. Evan is 47-59-1, and I'm 46-57-1. And how that really balances out, you don't have to worry about it. Really, you're just looking at the win total because we brought in some locks. We brought in a few different things this year. We've tried some things with the shutout that both me and Trevor have used so far. And if you call a shutout, then you get 10 points. Neither one of us converted on that because I had it on the Patriots and Jets earlier in the year, and the Jets scored 2 non-offensive touchdowns. So technically they pitched a shutout. I wasn't going to put up a fight because it's not a 0 on the scoreboard. So that's how it goes. Okay, so let's get into this. I think it's one of those times where we are we're at a good point in the season where a lot of things are starting to shape up. I'm going to pull up the NFL standings and things like that. We'll start talking through it because this is one of those things that I haven't done in a while. So to address if the season ended today, how would we look? Obviously, in the AFC, you'd have the Patriots having home field advantage at 7-0. That's the reality of that. Currently, I know a lot of people are like, yay, Patriots again, awesome. And none of us picked them to win the Super Bowl. It's really interesting how that happens every single year. Some people do, but a lot of people are on the Chiefs this year. Clearly, the defense has struggled a bit. However, I'm gonna show this to you. So we're on the AFC East here. The Patriots, they have 223 points for them, 48 against them. That shows you how good that defense is. This is a all-time great defense, and it's going to be really, really hard to score points on them. Now, their schedule coming up they have the Ravens after this week, and then they have, I think, the Eagles, Cowboys, Chiefs, something like that. I'm going to pull up their schedule here. So they have the Ravens after the Browns this week, and the Browns are coming off a bye, so that could be an interesting game at Foxborough. Then they're at the Ravens, bye week at the Eagles, home against the Cowboys, away at the Texans, home against the Chiefs, and then they have Cupcake, Bills, Cupcake again to finish out. So worst case scenario, they're like 4 losses. If the Eagles, the Cowboys, Texans, Patriots, Ravens, Browns all play their best, maybe even the Bills, but at Foxborough, not a great record. So you're looking at teams that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possibilities of losing. And we all know Bill Belichick and Tom Brady in big games. And that defense, super solid. Obviously, at this point, we were thinking that the Cowboys would be banged up, the Eagles would be banged up, Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes would be out for the season. Well, we'll talk about that here in a second. And so obviously he's not. And so this is how it's lining up right now for the Patriots, as they are sitting up at 7-0 on the year. And the Bills, a pleasant surprise. Their defense is solid, 91 points given up the entire year. However, they've only scored 121. And so whenever you cannot score, you cannot win the game sometimes. They have lost one game, and the Bills have looked good. I mean, they scored 31. The one game that they've lost to is the Patriots, and it was by 6. That spread was a lot bigger, I believe. It was 7. It was a 7-point spread, so I actually won that one. I picked the Bills at home. But they are looking good. I mean, they beat, the Jets in week 1, squeaked that out. I was like, okay, the Jets are not good this year. And then, they beat the Giants, not good. Beat the Bengals, not good. Beat the Titans, Beat the Dolphins, not good. Tomorrow's going to be a big test. It's at home against the Eagles. Really looking forward to watching that game. That's at noon. So that'll be a good one. The Bills, right now, if the season ended, they would be in the playoffs. As a wild card, you'd have the West sneaking in, the Chiefs by winner. The Raiders now at 3-3. It looks like probably, and I haven't quite looked back at the status of Patrick Mahomes. Let's see if there's anything that is updated on that. Ruled out. Okay, 20 hours ago, he was ruled out. Well, that's smart. He practiced this week a little bit. Whenever I saw the video, he definitely looks like a guy that dislocated his kneecap like 10 days ago. For one of those things where everybody online, when it happened, they were like, okay, it could be anywhere, if best case scenario, 3 weeks to 6 weeks. I think the Chiefs should keep him out 3 weeks. Maybe bring him back against the Chargers, something like that. I think they have coming up, they have the Packers on Sunday Night Football. So I'll see how that spread has come out now that Matt Moore is going to start. Then they have the Vikings at home next week, then the Titans. Then you bring him back maybe against the Chargers, and then you get the Raiders a couple days later after a bye week. So shaking out for the Chiefs, they're looking solid still, 5-2. They would make the playoffs if it started right now. Ravens out of the North, and you would have the South. Right now, obviously, we know we're not up to date with all the buys and stuff, but the Colts would be the winner because they're 4-2, and the Texans would sneak into the playoffs at 4-3. And that's just how it would roll right now. For the NFC, we have the Cowboys at 4-3 after that big win against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers, this is a great division here. Looking at the West, which who would have thought that last year whenever we were, Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt. Cardinals were obviously on their way to the number 1 pick. The Rams were on their way to the Super Bowl. Seahawks snuck into the playoffs. Cowboys beat them. This is a division this year where a couple teams are going to get snubbed because, or maybe just one team gets snubbed. Maybe they cover up both of the the wild cards here. But as of right now, that would not happen because you have the Cowboys winning the East, the 49ers winning the West, the Packers are at 6-1, the Saints are at 6-1, so those two would win their division. Then the Vikings would get in at 6-2 currently, and then you'd have the Seahawks. So then you'd have the NFC representative from the Super Bowl last year and the Rams not making the playoffs if it started today. Now, I know that's not how things roll. We have a lot of games to play here in the 2019-2020 season, but that is one of those things where, you could see a couple shakeups here. The Seahawks, the Rams, the Cardinals are at 3-1. I'm not sure a lot of people saw that, but they're on a 3-game winning streak. And I do think the 49ers at some point will slip. I mean, they have the Panthers this week. Then Thursday Night Football against the Cardinals at Arizona. That's kind of a sneaky game. Then you're at, home against the Seahawks, and then home against the Cardinals again. Then you have the Packers, the Ravens, the Saints. Then you have Falcons, who are typically a cupcake this year, and then Rams, Seahawks. They have a tough finishing schedule, and that is attributed to how good the West has been this year. And then the North, the Packers, they have to play the Chiefs this week, obviously minus Patrick Mahomes. You would imagine they would go to 7-1. And then the Vikings have the Chiefs the next week at Arrowhead as well. So, and the Vikings are the team that I picked to go to the NFC, to win the NFC Championship. And maybe so far that's still looking solid if you're looking at these points here. And obviously this is added with the week here. They added 19 to their total. But over 200 points, the first team in the NFC to do that. The Cowboys are at 190. You have the Rams at 190. A couple of 184s in here with the Packers and Seahawks. But yeah, a good offense, even though Kirk Cousins is not that type of showy quarterback. And, Dalvin Cook has been as consistent as you can ask for whenever it comes to the running back position this year. Yes, him and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is just, he's a different animal, and he's the type of guy that's going to change that position. But as for now, Dalvin Cook is running the ball at a great clip. He's only missed out on 100-plus yards 2 separate times this year. So he is solid. And, now it'd be 3 because they played on Thursday. And he only had – no. He got to 100, I think. Let me check on that here. But one of those things where he has played tremendously well. And they can really – they can lean on him. So 98 yards total rushing, but then he obviously had – I think 73 yards through the air. So this is what he was looking at here. So 171 scrimmage yards for him and a touchdown, the only touchdown in that game. So the Vikings are looking solid. I'll keep you updated on my picks and stuff like that. And we'll get to the picks for this upcoming week here in just a moment. But, this is as good of a season as you could ask for. The parity in the NFL, I think you can really appreciate. The Bears won that division last year. They're now 3-3. The Lions have had a tough stretch. They are. Thank you, Facebook. By the way, I'm working on a podcast, and it tells me, hey, you haven't posted in a while. Thanks, working on it. Facebook. Saints, Panthers. Bucks are out of it. Falcons are out of it. Falcons really on the 5-game losing streak. You can kind of write them off, and then the Redskins and Giants out of the East. You can write them off. But as far as the rest of the people. The Lions are on a 3-game losing streak, but they had to play some really, really tough games. They really, in reality, should have beat the Packers. They had the Chiefs dangling by a thread, and then obviously the Vikings took care of business against them. So they're on a 3-game losing streak, and that is one of those things that you just, sometimes you can't avoid. In the NFL, the Cowboys just bounced off of a 3-game losing streak and beat the Eagles and looked like a Super Bowl defense. So who knows? I believe that the Cowboys are a good team coming down the stretch. They have the Giants this week. Then they're against the Vikings, great game. Against the Lions, at Detroit, tough place to play. Then at Patriots, at home against the Bills on Thanksgiving, at the Bears, against the Rams, at the Eagles, and then home against the Redskins. So in reality, the Cowboys only have one more gimme, you would think, against the Redskins. And then the rest of them, they're going to have to fight for it. So say they get to 5-3, obviously that final week, you're thinking about it. And then there are some losable games in there. And the Eagles have, similar schedule in that facet. They have the Bills, Bears, Patriots, Seahawks, Dolphins, Giants, Redskins, Cowboys, and Giants. So a couple winners there for the Eagles, you would imagine. So the big thing on people's mind, especially where I live up in Kansas City, is people talking about Patrick Mahomes and how he practiced this week, and now he's ruled out. We all saw the kind of the graphic video, the not safe for work video that went out about his kneecap and how kind of gross that was. And yes, it was gross, but it just kind of shows you if he's up and practicing a week later, how kind of different an athlete is compared to a normal human being. And why I say that is because I think sometimes people are like, well, I could go out there and do that. Not necessarily what Patrick Mahomes does, but, take a lesser quarterback. Some people say they could go out and do, what Alex Smith did or Kirk Cousins or Case Keenum. They're professional athletes for a reason, and whenever it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they are very good at what they do. They get paid millions of dollars to play a game, yes, but they are putting their bodies on the line. And Patrick, at a very young age, is doing some crazy things. Obviously, the fastest to 7,500 yards, 60 touchdowns, and now he's only going to miss a couple of games. He could have missed the rest of the year, and you could have written off this year for the Chiefs and just said, all right, let's get ready to have Patrick back next year, get as healthy as possible, figure out this roster. They're still thinking about a Super Bowl. The funny thing is here, if I show you this online here, they are 4-0 away from home, which is a tough thing to do in the NFL. Obviously, you can see the Patriots and the Bills kind of in that same realm, but 1-2 at Arrowhead, and some would call it the best home field advantage in all the NFL. And they have lost 2 games there. One of those things where you don't see it often. They lost at home to the Colts. They lost at home to the Texans back-to-back weeks. And now they have the Packers and the Vikings coming to their place. And so I'm interested to see the line. I haven't looked at it yet. We're going to do that together here in just a moment. But I'm interested to see what the line is, obviously, with Matt Moore. But they're, they're ruling out a lot of people this week. Frank Clark and Chris Jones are still out. And so their 2 main pass rushers coming off of, Chris Jones didn't play last week, but 9 sacks last week for that Chiefs defense. They needed that a lot. However, they have some tough games, and you don't know when Patrick's coming back. But if he was practicing this week, a limited participation, it could be sooner rather than later. Definitely better than what a lot of people around here thought that it would be. So with that in mind, let's go to the picks here. I'm going to pull up Google Chrome, the choice of my going to web browsers. So if you're ever worried about that, I don't know why feel the need to tell you that I use Google Chrome, but I also use Safari. I'm a Mac user. So we're going to write these down here as we go. And tomorrow, early slate of games. Let's go ahead and show you these. Early slate of games. Make sure I'm in the right thing. Arizona at New Orleans, and New Orleans is minus 10.5. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is that type of quarterback where he is playing essentially for another contract. You could say that in all reality. I don't think the Saints are thinking Bridgewater's the long-term quarterback in New Orleans. I really don't. I think with Taysom Hill there, as rare of an athlete in the NFL as there is, I think, because he can return punts, he can cover on special teams, and he's a quarterback, and he throws a pretty dang good ball. So I think he's there in the long haul for backup reasons. So I think whatever they decide to do, I don't think it's Teddy Bridgewater, but for now he's undefeated, and it's a 10.5-point spread. Both of these teams 5-2 against the spread. A lot of people picking the Saints here. It's right at that 52-48 mark. I'm going to go with the Saints in a nail-biter by 11. Just barely covering up that spread. I say a nail-biter to people who are picking the game against that spread, because it is, double digits this year have gone in the way of the underdog, I feel like. That was true on Thursday night as well. Washington laying 17. And then obviously, only lost by 10. So it'll be interesting to see what Cliff Kingsbury has in store for New Orleans, Could always have some wrinkles, but that's a tough place to play. And I think Teddy Bridgewater stays undefeated as a quarterback this year. Cincinnati at Los Angeles. The Rams minus 12.5. This is one of those games where the Rams are kind of, I don't know, you'd like to not think that they would think ahead. But 70% of the people are on the Rams this week. And I've been on the Bengals a little bit this year, just in the fact that they're getting so many points. And, it's a tough one for me. I think Cincinnati's good enough to cover that 12.5 point spread. But I do think the Rams take care of business. 2 touchdowns. No biggie for Jared Goff and Sean McVay at home. So the Rams stay in the playoff hunt with a win against Cincinnati. Denver at Indianapolis. Coming up from Indy, minus 4.5 at home. Jacoby Brissett's played well. These Colts have beat a couple really solid teams. They're 4-1-1 against the spread this year. Really like that Marlon Mack is running the ball well. That defense is looking solid. They could be around for a long time. I don't think Jacoby Brissett is the long-term solution. However, I do think that they get the job done this week against Denver. 4.5 points is not a ton. You can see there's a 70% percentage here, 70% on the Colts over here on this side. And, the predicted score has them winning by 13. So, obviously, big thanks to oddshark.com. I use this pretty much every time I do a podcast for the spreads. It just seems like the most up-to-date all the time. It has the professional picks down here where the 54% and the 46% are. So I like using this website so you can see a lot of the insights there. So you have the Chargers coming up next at the Chicago Bears. The Bears are minus 4. Bears have not looked great this year. Chargers as well have not looked great this year. I do think the Bears can get back on track at Soldier Field, and Mitch Trubisky doing his thing, which is not great so far, but he's back. And I like Chase Daniel in that too, but I'm going to go Chicago. Yes, I am going 4 winners from the beginning. Yeah, you have 54% on the Chargers here. I will get to some underdogs, I guarantee it, because I tend to lean towards the favorite. And so far this year, that hasn't really paid off. However, need to start going against the grind a little bit to make up some ground, but I'm not going to compromise kind of what I'm thinking just to catch up, because I believe that over time, Trevor will make a mistake. You'd hope. He's probably listening saying, I won't make a mistake. But we'll see. And so next game, still in the noon hour, New York Giants at Detroit. Detroit, sticky at home. Really, really good at home. They do not go away. They tend to get the job done. And so another favorite, I feel like. The Giants maybe are starting to go into tank mode after a couple of wins. I'm going to go Detroit at home. I think the biggest difference, and this is kind of one of those things where the biggest difference this year in the NFL is that teams, once they notice they're starting to lose, they tend to allow that to happen. I'm not saying they're tanking, but they tend to start letting that happen. Saquon get fully healthy. Daniel Jones, rookie quarterback. I think Matt Stafford has enough to get the job done at home against the Giants, minus 6.5 points. New York Jets struggled on Thursday Night Football. They've had 10 days to prepare for Jacksonville, and Jacksonville down there, minus 6.5. Give me the Jets. This is right at the 50-50 mark for the professionals. I'm going to go Jets. I know the predicted score here on OddsShark has Jacksonville winning by 1 million. I think the Jets show up. Sam Darnold bouncing back a little bit. So I do think that they go ahead and get inside that spread. I think Jacksonville wins the game, but 6.5 for me is good enough for the Jets to go ahead and be picked there. So the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo minus 2. This could be a really, really interesting game. The Buffalo Bills are, like I said, they're 5-1, 4-2 against the spread. They're also really, really good at home. And I enjoy when, the home team is favored just by a little bit. The Eagles are coming off of a A not-so-great performance at Dallas. Of course, the computer now is going to run slow while I try and pull that up, but I'll pull these back up here now as that gets going. But Philadelphia at Buffalo, -2. I really do think that they have enough at home. That defense is very, very good. Will not be talked about as much as the New England defense. And so I like Buffalo a lot. I think they do make the playoffs this year. And so I'm going to go them at home, -2 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to have to go back in here and open back up the oddshark.com here because we had some technical difficulties on the internet here this morning. Love that. If you are enjoying the content and you are on Facebook, please do give this video a like, share it around. Also on YouTube, I will post this. People tend to like YouTube, but not as much not as much traffic comes through the YouTube algorithm simply because I'm at like 12 subscribers. Would love to get that up. So if you would, please do go like the Facebook page and go like the YouTube page as well. It just seems to work out better. And you guys are great people. Really do appreciate you guys, supporting me and doing that. Lots of college football today. We're not going to talk a ton about college football. So if you're here for that, I do apologize. We're more on the NFL side of things for right now. Once we get down the stretch in college football, we will get to that as well. However, for right now, we're going to stick to the NFL. So I'm going to stick to the kind of the top of the screen here because we have, like I said, some technical difficulties this morning on the internet. So we're up here, and we are looking at Seattle and Atlanta. Seattle -7 on the road across the entire country at Atlanta. One of those things where do you see the Falcons start to tank here? I think I go Atlanta, take the points at home. I don't necessarily like that pick, but I don't think that a lot of people are going to be on Atlanta. Kind of the 65-35 split here. Let me check here. Yes, indeed. So I'm up here, and I'm on Atlanta +7. So then you have Tampa Bay at Tennessee. Tennessee -2.5 on this spread here. And Tampa Bay is an interesting one. Tennessee also interesting. This is going to be a snoozer. I do believe that I like the points here. I'll go Tampa Bay +2.5 at Tennessee. Carolina +5.5 at San Francisco. This is across the country. Anytime you have to get on a flight and go all the way across the country, I really do not like. Obviously, I picked Atlanta +7, but now you have Carolina going the opposite direction. Christian McCaffrey going to have a big, big game. But I do think San Francisco is good enough to win that by a touchdown. So let's go ahead and take San Francisco -5.5. Then you have Cleveland. We're on the 425 slot now. You have Cleveland +11.5. This is a gigantic spread, I believe, even at New England. -11.5 for the Patriots. I'm going Cleveland. I think they've had 10 days, or they're coming off their bye week, and New England is coming off a 10-day rest. I do think that New England is good enough to beat this team by 10, but I think Baker Mayfield and those guys are willing to show that, hey, we're here. Yes, we're not gonna make the playoffs this year, but we're a good enough team to go into Foxborough and at least put up a fight. So I like Cleveland and that number a little bit more as we go along. That's just me. So then I have Oakland at Houston -6.5, -6.5. That's a healthy margin for Oakland here. However, Houston running hot. I do believe Deshaun Watson's one of the best in the game. Clearly top 5 in my opinion. Some people would put him as high as 3 or 2. However, I think that right now Oakland, good enough team. They've had Tyrell Williams out for a while, but I do think that Houston gets the job done at home -6.5. So then here's the spread that I was the most interested to see. I'm not sure that it has changed a whole lot since the beginning of the week. I think a lot of people out in Las Vegas have known that Patrick Mahomes would not play, and Green Bay is a 4-point favorite at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football. I think they go into Arrowhead and get the job done. Even though Kansas City, they have a good amount of pieces. Their defense is in shambles currently. I think they get healthy for the stretch. They will make the playoffs. I think they are going to be a good enough team to kind of wiggle through the playoffs and maybe get to that AFC Championship game. But for now, I'm going to go Green Bay on the road at Arrowhead -4. And then Monday Night Football, you can pretty much snooze it up. You don't have to tune into ESPN. I'm not trying to talk against ESPN here, but they have had some absolute snoozers. Miami at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh laying 14, -14 on a Monday Night Football game. Mason Rudolph, this and that and the other. Give me Miami. 2 touchdowns in the NFL is a ton of points, and I really just don't see how Miami can't cover that up. So, to recap, New Orleans -10.5, Rams -12.5, Indianapolis -4.5, Chicago -4, Detroit -6.5, Jets +6.5, Buffalo -2, Atlanta +7, Tampa Bay +2.5, San Francisco -5.5, Cleveland +11.5, Houston -6.5, Green Bay -4, and Miami +14. So only about 4 or 5 underdogs there in the entire week. So we're back. Appreciate you guys tuning into this podcast today because it has been a while. It has been a little while. So for the loyal people out there listening, watching, yes, I got the glasses on. Yes, the hair's not looking good. I got the headphones back on. Appreciate you guys being loyal. And if you guys would share this around and, show some support on the video, ClassicPolasek.com is going to lead you straight to my Facebook page. Big shout out to my friend Brian there for snagging that URL before it got taken. So, as for now, we're about 30 minutes into this podcast. We're going to go ahead and end it. It's been a long time. Wanted to get one out for you guys because you guys are the best. Family, friends, people out there in the internet that just randomly come across it. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoy some college football today. Not really going to pick against the spread. I need to do a little bit more research on some college football. It's kind of the same thing as college basketball. I'm going to tune in, but I'm not going to make any picks on that for a while because it just really doesn't look good. Even back in the day, I would go about 500 whenever I was doing radio in Texas. So that's going to be it for now. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down in the comments below. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. And hopefully, we're going to get another one of these bad boys out next week. And we will plan on it until otherwise noted. So keep an eye on the Facebook page. Do drop a like. Also subscribe on the YouTube page if you are over there as well. Do appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, this has been the Classic Polasek Podcast. I'll see you guys next time.